During lockdown, one of the issues I've had with working from home, which I'm sure a lot of people do, is the fact that we have to have lots of meetings on, online through through lots of different video conferencing applications. And what that means is I'm kind of reliant on my mobile phone that tells me that I have a notification, it's a meeting in 10 minutes. The problem with this is what I tend to do with my mobile phone is I don't like notifications sitting around, so I immediately kind of swipe them off. And I just think, oh yeah, I've got 10 minutes, I'll just answer a couple of emails. And it's usually kind of 20 minutes later that I realize, I get a telephone call saying, why aren't you on the meeting? Because of that, I just thought it would be quite nice to write a little sort of GUI application that I can have up on the screen constantly all the time that has, a big visual change and some audible output to say, a notification application, if you like. So I've got my calendar in Google, in my Google Calendar. Google have an API which they have a Python bindings for Python library to access their API. So I just thought it would be quite nice to write it through Python, and I'm using the GTK the Python bindings again for GTK library. So it was quite simple to create, and I'm just going to go through, show you how to install it and use it, and I'll have a little point through the code to show you kind of how I've done it as well. Okay, so what I've got here is a Raspberry Pi with the kind of audio, just normal analog audio, connected into a little electric speaker. If you've got speakers in your TV or in monitor, then you don't need that, but this monitor doesn't have any speakers in it. So I've got a standard Raspberry Pi OS running, the 32-bit Raspberry Pi OS. So what I can do is open a terminal on here. And then the first thing I got to do is clone the code from GitHub. So we do git clone https github.com/ghollingworth/NextEvent. There we go. So that's pulled out the data. So I've downloaded it from my GitHub account. And if you go into NextEvent and have a look in there's a bunch of files. There are two Python files. One's called NextEvent, the other one's called Google Cal. NextEvent is the bit that has most of the kind of handling of the events and the window control, the GUI control. The Google Cal part of it is just something that does the Google API part of it and kind of simplifies the connection between that and NextEvent. There's also install.sh, and that's used to install the dependencies required for this. So if you have a look at it, you'll see there's a bunch of Python libraries that I need. So there's dateutil, there's Cairo, GI Cairo, which is the GTK bindings. And then you've got the Google APIs, the API libraries as well. So if you just run that, so /install will install those libraries. I've actually already installed them, so this will just run through and say everything's already there. Okay, so that's there. I can now start NextEvent. So if I go Python 3, it's important to run using Python 3, nextevent.py. Okay, so pops open a window and then it opens Chromium. Okay, so what's happening here is my application is requesting access to your data, to your calendar. So if you run this code, it will do this and it will ask you for access to your code. The way this works is there's a token that NextEvent has. It passes that token to Google. That identifies the application as being NextEvent. That's how it knows it's called NextEvent. So it passes that token to Google. Google will then go through this process of just checking that you're okay with that. So you may have to log in here and put your password in and approve that to say, yes, NextEvent is allowed access to my data. Google then passes back to the application what's called an API token. So that API token then identifies your connection to Google and to your data. So using that API token for a short period of time, because Google always only give you API tokens for short periods of time, you can then access the data. And the idea, the kind of the complexity here is all about making sure that when somebody comes to access your data, you don't just give them everything. You know, they don't request everything. They only request the things they need. So here it says I need to choose an account. So here's the account that I'm going to log in. So it comes up here with a little warning. This is because Google hasn't verified my app. Fair enough. So you have to go advanced here and then say, yes, it's fine. Go to next event. So what it does is it says, okay, should I grant permissions to this? Yeah, I say, yes, I want to allow that. And then it just says, right, you are allowing next event to view your calendar. So that's the only thing that it's asking to be able to do. So you say, yep, okay, I'm going to allow that. And there you go. So now what we have is my next event application has now been able to load up all of my events that I've got coming up in the next, the next 4 events that go coming up in the next day or so. And as you can see right now, I got in 2 minutes time a super secret meeting RE Sharks. So what actually happens here in the code is we go through, each item goes through a number of different states. So if it's like with these ones, they are more than 5 minutes away. So they're in like a state which just says we don't really care about them. We're just going to draw them like this. Whereas this one is now less than 5 minutes away. So it goes into a state where when it changes into that state, it dings. So that's where you hear, when you heard when it started up, it did the ding. And then as it switches down from 2 minutes down to 1 minute, it will then do the ding. It'll do 2 dings, and then when it switches to when it's in progress, so in other words at the actual time that your meeting is starting, then it will do 4 dings. So at 1 minute, when 1 minute passes, you get 2 dings. And then when it gets into progress, then you get the 4 dings, and you should then join your conference call. And that's it.